Okay then, and welcome to another episode of the Ignite Your Mind podcast with myself, Sanjay Patel. I hope you guys are doing well. And again, your sort of early part into the second season of the Ignite Your Mind podcast. I'm really, really excited to have the main man himself, the Yorkshire lad, Dan Keane. How you doing, mate?
Very well, thanks. How are you, Sanjay?
I'm very well, mate. I'm very well. It's a rainy day here in England, so it's normal service resumes.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. Dan, so I mean, look, we don't know each other. We know each other from Instagram, and that's one thing I do like about Instagram is that you can create really good relationships. There's a lot of relationships that I've built through people that, you know, just on the same vibe, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I really appreciate you reaching out to me and just have a chat and go through your story. So without further ado, take us back to give the listeners and the people listening an idea to who Dan is in general. So take us back to when you were a kid. Like, what were you like as a kid?
Okay, doke. So as a kid, I was generally pretty quiet. I just got on with things. I don't think I caused any trouble. I just cracked on with whatever I needed to do. Didn't really ask questions, and yeah, just generally quiet. And I suppose looking back now, I think a lot of this, I understand why I was like that, because I lived with my stepdad who was deaf and dumb.
Okay.
So I lived with my mum and my stepdad, and my stepdad were deaf and dumb.
What do you mean deaf and dumb? Obviously, I know what
So
deaf is.
it's just a term I use for, I think it's called profoundly deaf. So
Okay.
born deaf, so he signs.
Right.
So he can't really speak, and obviously can't hear.
Right.
So
Okay.
I lived with my mum and my stepdad, and I actually lost my mum at 14-year-old,
No.
and I carried on. I carried on to live with my stepdad. So as you can imagine, it were pretty difficult at that point.
Mm.
But being that type of child, I think I did just sort of get on with things, and it wasn't until later on in life when I look back and really think about how difficult it would have been for me at that point.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, on my mum, when I was 14, I went fishing with my cousins in Halifax, and my mum were healthy and, you know, fine. And we, after the fishing, we didn't catch no fish at all. But we walked back to the home, and something went right. My cousin got a call, and then we sort of did a detour. We didn't go the normal way back to the home.
Mm-hmm.
And we were stood at the top of this street, and we could see all the way down to where I lived. And there were an ambulance outside my house, and my Auntie Margaret at that point had just sort of like met us at this point where we did a detour, and she just said to my cousin, "Your Auntie Susan's died." And I heard that, and that's my mum. And so obviously at that point at 14, it's a massive, you know, a massive change to my life and who I am as a person growing up.
Yeah, man, I can imagine that would have a massive impact on you. I'm sorry to hear that. I mean, you're young at that point. You're not even an adult, so you don't really, you still don't really know right from wrong, do you?
No.
I mean, do you mind me asking how she passed?
Yeah, so it was a brain hemorrhage. So
Okay.
it was just something all of a sudden. I didn't actually get too many details afterwards about it, but it was just all of a sudden passed away. No real signs or, you know, symptoms about it. It was just one of those things. So it was sudden.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, sorry to hear that. Do you know what? It's almost worse sometimes because it's so unexpected because you don't even realize that, you know, if someone's got cancer and they're slowly, progressively getting worse, you kind of see it coming, but still never an easy thing to take. But okay, so when you were 14, like obviously that happened, like do you think you absorbed it? Do you think you understood it?
Um, I did understand it, but it were very much. It seemed like it were we quickly moved on and got on with life.
Okay.
Um, but I suppose I maybe wasn't ready for that.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the 6-week holidays, so it was July.
Right.
Just broke up for summer, and then I went through the 6-week holidays, seeing family and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But then going back to school after the 6 week holidays, it was like back to normality.
Yeah.
Um, but then going home to live with my stepdad who was deaf and dumb, and not communicating really verbally about
Jesus.
anything.
So I mean, from then on, so you didn't really have an adult figure to communicate with. You had an adult figure there, but not really one
Yeah, so
to.
I did have, like, it would be wrong for me to say I didn't have other people. So I did have family members,
Okay, yeah, yeah,
and I did speak to them, but I did mainly live with my stepdad.
yeah,
So the majority of communication was non-verbal.
yeah.
So it wasn't able to offer that emotional support.
Mm.
It was just there physically for me.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, definitely, man. I mean, do you mind me asking? Do you know your dads?
Yeah, I do know my dad. My mum and dad split up when I was young, so I don't
Okay.
even remember them being together.
Yeah.
Uh, I did see my dad from point to point at some points during that time, but not too often, really.
Okay. Fine. And do you still speak to him now?
Yeah, I do speak to him. I suppose not as we haven't got that relationship that
Okay.
I suppose you would thought maybe had come from after an experience like that.
Yeah, no, no, definitely. Okay. And then so yeah, so talk us through sort of going into your late teens. So when you sort of turned 16, 17, 18, what were you doing?
Yeah, so after that point, I did. I played rugby league, and
Hmm.
I didn't play rugby before that point. So after
All right.
my mum had died, I went and started to play rugby just because a friend at school said, "Why don't you come along and play at our club?"
Yeah.
So I went down and played from the age of 14. Um, and after a couple of years of doing it, at 16, I got signed at a professional rugby league club.
Oh, no way.
So it went from sort of a difficult experience to then having something to focus on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Especially a physical sport as well, which
Yeah.
is super important.
So I had something something that I could focus on,
Mm.
which probably at that point was a coping strategy, and without me even knowing.
Yeah.
Um, and I went through. I played rugby league at Huddersfield, and then I left there just because I stopped getting picked in the team. So I just left because I wanted to be playing.
Hmm.
I went back to my amateur team down Siddle in Halifax, and I played a couple of seasons in first team. But then I got a bad injury to my knee, and I got I ruptured my cruciate ligament in my right knee.
Hmm.
And it put me out of the game, which is something that I enjoyed. It's something that helped mentally and physically. So the
Hmm.
time off was difficult when I wasn't playing.
Yeah.
Uh, so what I did is I rehabbed my knee, and I decided to go back and do the thing that I enjoyed, I was passionate about, and I got a lot from. It was, I think, part of my identity at that point,
Hmm.
being a rugby league player. And I went back to play, and the first game back, I run the ball in, and I did my knee again.
No, no.
Yeah, so I did my cruciate ligament again.
Yeah.
So then that put me out. That put me out for well, I haven't played again since,
Yeah.
and that was a big part of my life at that point, and it helped. So for it to then be taken away from me,
Hmm.
um, and that's what I've spoken about with other people, is that I suppose I built up a belief system around things getting taken from me.
Okay.
My mum was taken very quickly.
Hmm.
An injury happens quickly, and then the game's taken from you. And
Yeah.
then I went back, another one, and then it would take it from me again. So I suppose I built up this belief or this thought process around a fear of losing something.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
from that point, I then struggled at points with my own mental health.
Yeah. Okay. And how old were you then?
So I'm going on to late teens, 19, 20, and then
Okay.
around 21.
Okay. Okay. So when you were 21, you started suffering from mental health illnesses,
Yeah.
problems, and what were you like personality wise then? But obviously you built up this belief system, which is I hate to say it's common, but it's a common theme that people have so many hardships, and then they start believing that this whole I can't have this, or I can't have that, or I can't change my life, or I can't live my life how I want to. How did you deal with like the mental health side of it come in? And were you working or anything? Like, were you in a job or?
Yeah, so I was in a like a 9 till 5 job.
Okay.
How I dealt with it, I suppose, there was an increase of me going out with my friends, drinking.
Hmm.
That sort of increased, but there was also an increase in my sort of temperament, and I suppose negative emotions that then started to arise from
Hmm.
nowhere. Um, and to be honest, I don't think I dealt with it well, um, with the emotions that were coming up.
Hmm.
It was using things to get away from them rather than deal with them. At one point, I I was around Christmas time. We went out on town, and then afterwards, I decided I went back home and I decided to just get in my car and go for a drive
After
uh,
drinking,
after drinking,
so you were well over the limit.
well over limit.
Right.
And but I felt like I could drive. I wasn't like,
Yeah.
I don't think I was all over the road, but the police stopped me and I got a ban,
Oh,
and that was I suppose like a turning point for me,
okay.
because that were like, what am I doing? What am I
Yeah.
doing in my life? I've just done something that was totally, I felt out of character.
Hmm.
I didn't need to do it. What is going on?
Yeah. Were you going anywhere in particular, or was it just literally get in my
Uh,
car and drive?
no, it was getting in my car. I had the seaside in my head. I was just going to drive to the seaside, um, just because it's quite far away from where I
Yeah.
live,
Right.
and I
What
never.
time in the morning was this as well, or in the
Um,
evening?
I think it was about 2 in the morning, something
Two
like
in the
that.
morning.
Yeah.
Drive down to the seaside. Okay.
So obviously at that point, you can sort of see a picture of, I'm not in the right place.
Yeah.
Um, Around that time, there was a friend from the rugby club who put out that he's been trained in mental health first aid, and that he's there to, to help anyone and signpost them to get the right support that's needed.
Hmm.
Then I approached this person, and he was able to get me on and put me on some counselling, um,
Yeah.
through a company called Sporting Chance,
Okay.
and it, I'd say it wasn't life changing,
Hmm.
but it helped me to understand why I was doing what I was doing.
Yeah. I was literally going to ask that. Like, when you were in that moment, and the reason why I'm going to ask this question, because there might be someone that's listening to this that might be suffering from anxiety, depression, or panic attacks, or whatever mental health illness they've got. Did you, at that point, when you were going through the mental health trauma, did you understand, like, wholeheartedly that you had a mental health illness?
No, I it was clear that I had poor mental health, but
Yeah.
I think there were just thoughts around what's wrong with me,
Okay.
as opposed to clearly knowing that, um, I've got poor mental health,
Yeah.
because I had no diagnosis or all like that. It was more, um, unable to regulate my emotions, and
Hmm.
it was quite consistent. So I suppose, then going for help, it normalised it. That someone who's gone through this experience and this timeline,
Hmm.
it was sort of the question of how can they not be affected and not be impacted in such a way.
Yeah.
So it was like it took me out from feeling alienated and feeling like there is something wrong with me,
Yeah.
to actually it were all right, that it's okay that I was like that because of that experience.
Is that famous saying? It's okay not to be okay, but it's
Yeah,
realizing that you're not okay. Right. That's the main thing. And I, you know what, I have these conversations so many times with people with mental health illnesses, and they just don't believe they've got a mental health illness, even though sometimes some of them, their situations or cases can be really extreme.
Yeah,
So it's that tipping point, isn't it? Because I couldn't have gone up to you at that time and said, "Look, Dan, you know, your mental health has taken a battering. You need to get help." That
yeah,
just does not work, and that's what a lot of people do if they don't understand mental health. That's what they would say to someone who they think might be, might need help,
mm,
even though it's coming from a good place. It's not the thing to say to them. So
yeah.
what would you say if you were going through that, or when you were going through that, if some random saw you, or a friend or family member saw you, what would you want them to say to you to make you realize that you need to get help?
Um, I suppose it's not really what they say, but it's how they say it
Yeah.
and how they approach it. I
Yeah.
think non-judgmental listening
Hmm.
and just accepting the person as they are
Yeah.
without telling them what they should do or what they shouldn't be doing, because those are judgments.
Yeah.
Just allowing them to talk and for you to be able to listen to them,
Hmm.
um, can be changing in itself. It can be quite therapeutic. So I think that alone can be a starting point,
Yeah.
and then look into what is available. What can I go and do?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because there is a hell of a lot out there, right? It's just sometimes
yeah,
we're blindsided by it and we just don't see it.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you mind me sharing a quick little story? I call it the
Oh,
postman story.
fine. Yeah,
It's just a quick story about someone I know who had mental health and illness. They were a bit delusional. It was more of a delusional mental health, paranoia, and things like that. So they said to me, well, the postman who delivers our post every day is out to get me. I was like, what do you mean? Tell me more about that. They're like, well, it's just out to get me. I was like, oh, okay. I said, well, what happens? It's like they're watching us. I was like, okay, all right, interesting. I said, so when do you see the postman? It's like every day. I was like, what, Monday to Friday? He was like, yeah, every day, Monday to Friday. I was like, Saturday? Oh, yeah, sometimes Saturday. I said, so what happens on Sunday when the postman doesn't turn up because the post doesn't get delivered on Sunday? So what happens? Just intrigued to know. And that person in question got really confused, and it was almost like the way that I explained that was challenging their thinking to be like, okay, well maybe this isn't true, because it's not. Obviously, it's not. And then what happened the week later is that the postman changed to a postwoman. So then all of a sudden, this person in question had a lot of issues around women taking control and empowerment, and the whole thing was going on with women at the moment, and equality and stuff like that. And they thought, well, this postwoman's, and now changed to a postwoman. It's like, this is it. They're trying to take over. So what do you mean take over? So what happens on the Sunday and the Saturday in this question, because it's posted and delivered on Saturday and Sunday? Well, I don't know. And I said, well, how long was the post being delivered here? Like, well, I don't know. I said, isn't it all our lives? The post has been delivered here every day, pretty much all our lives. Like, well, yeah. So I said, so if the post gets delivered for another 20 years, what's going to happen? And it was really just a point of just questioning their mindset without telling them that they're wrong.
yeah,
That postman is not staring at us. It's not being paranoid. They're not after us. It was
yeah.
just questioning that thought process. I wanted to share that because that's a real story, and that was a true story.
Yeah, I think it's easy for us, to start thinking about something negative or a negative thought,
Mhm.
for it then to grow,
Yeah,
and it very quickly becomes irrational.
yeah,
And when you have someone, like a coach, who can dispute that
mhm,
in a good way, and then it's almost like, that person's then allowed this space to change the way that they think about things, because
mhm,
it's very hard for someone to dispute their own thoughts
yeah,
if they're not good at it. So I think at the beginning, when someone's disputing your own thoughts, then it's like starting to argue with yourself
yeah,
rather than dispute it in a way that you come to a conclusion.
yeah. Yeah, like if you're able to challenge your own thoughts, especially negative ones that fester and that you feed negativity to, be able to challenge them right at the start of that initial thought, things
Yeah,
can change quickly. And that was happened with one of my clients recently. She was able to challenge her. Like even she texted me like after our session, she was like, "I've just had a negative thought, but your voice came into my head." And I started challenging it straight away, and it didn't fester. It didn't get as bad as it should have done,
yeah,
or it had done in the past. I was just like, boom, that's what I'm talking about. That's where it can really start to help. It's a
mm,
long process. It's not an overnight thing, as you know, right? Going through it. Okay, cool. So look, moving forward, you've had a lot, you had a lot, you had a lot of shit, right?
yeah.
Lot of. I understand why the belief pattern can really damper, how you think. Going through all that, then obviously you got counselling. Um, Talk me through the counselling period because you're a coach, I'm a coach. We're not counsellors, we're not therapists. But
No.
talk me through your experience through counselling.
So I think counselling was a transition, and I'll explain it. So I transitioned from being in a state of low mood,
Hmm.
from being into a state of fear, and I describe it as before I had counselling, my life was how it was,
Hmm.
or I viewed my life as a certain way, as it being not good, but
Okay.
I didn't care about it. And when I learned about counselling, and it took me from that place of lack of understanding to understanding about my timeline, I did then care about my life,
Hmm.
but I had this then anxiety about losing things again because I cared about something and I
Yeah.
didn't want it to go. So it helped for understanding purposes, but I suppose it didn't it didn't change um, the way I behaved or thought about things moving forward. And how I describe it to other people, and this is my trainer described it like this to me. So he said a counsellor might go to someone to get help, and it's like someone coming to you with a tennis racket when they're playing tennis, and they can't hit the ball straight,
Hmm.
and a counsellor might look at your grip. Who taught it? Who taught you that way? When did you learn it? How long have you learned that for?
Hmm.
How long have you known that? And and why do you think it's like that? So that type of really digging into why it is the way it is.
Hmm.
And I suppose a coach point of view is let's just correct the grip so you can now hit the ball straight.
Yeah.
So it's correcting what's not right, so you can move forward.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. You're basically saying that the counsellor was talking about the past
Yeah,
and some of the present moment, whereas a coach would look towards the future and
yeah,
building your life forward.
yeah,
Um, there's one thing which I've never seen a counsellor myself, so I don't know firsthand. I'm only taking it from experiences and the conversations I've had, but and also one of my clients who saw a counsellor for 3 years, then come on and worked with me for 4 months, and said this in her own words is that the she gave up on the counselling because it was the same old thing. They talked about the same old past. There was no forward direction. There was no guidance to how to push past this. It was just talk about it and deal with it, but not
yeah,
push past it. And she said the 4 months it worked with me was that everything changed. Her thought process, what she wanted to create, her life that she wanted to live, her kids, her family, relationships, money, etc., whatever. And it just completely changed. And I personally think, just from speaking to people, that coaching, if you do it right, it has a whole new impact on someone's life than it does counseling. Now, I know there's going to be people with some deep rooted issues out there which do need to see counselors and therapists that are
yeah.
qualified in that area. Fine, absolutely go to them. I'm just talking from my experience and my opinion. I haven't gone that far. So, but yeah, I don't know what your thoughts are on it.
Yeah, I suppose I see it as everyone, whatever stage people are at, I suppose the different treatment or support that's available is individual to their needs
Yeah.
and at certain times. So for me, a counter at that point for the understanding part of understanding how living with someone who's deaf and dumb after you've lost your mum could have impact you quite significantly.
Hmm.
That worked for me at that point. But after the counselling, it was almost, now looking back, it would have been great to then jump over to coaching.
Bang. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
now what do you want?
Yeah.
What do you want to do?
What
You
do you
know,
want to
that
create?
that move forward.
Yeah.
So it did hurt. It did hurt. Sorry, not the right word. It did help.
Yeah.
It worked at that point, but I feel after that there was no there's it was that were it. Where
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
coaching or something else would be more helpful.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds amazing. Like you can go through that, then all that trauma in your life, and then personally see a counselor, go through that experience. But then it's like that, like you're like a bollard. You're just kind of stuck in the ground. And it's like that's the point. Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of people that do have that experience where they do counseling. Like my client, they're counseling for 3 years and then come to coaching. So yeah, maybe that's a really good point. Actually, I value that because that's very, very true as to what a lot of situations are. Um, all right, okay. So then, talk to me about coaching. Like we just jumped on before. You said you coaching for around about 2 years. How did coaching come about? Like where was that idea? What happened?
It came about from, suppose, after the counselling, I continued my own self development just by sort of YouTube and
Hmm.
reading books. And one of the main persons in the early days that I knew about was Tony Robbins,
Hmm.
which in this industry who don't know about him.
Yeah.
So then I just read his book, and
Sorry, who? No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
so I read his book, and there was something in there, and he talked a little bit about a process called NAC, which was his new version of uh, a strategy which come from NLP, neuro linguistic programming.
Yep.
And I then researched and looked into NLP and just decided that I'm going to do it. That's what I want to do, and I'm going to go and do it. So I was 24, and I I just googled some courses, and I travelled down to Staffordshire, which is a couple of hours away,
Hmm.
um, to go and learn about neuro linguistic programming.
So sorry, I'll just stop you on that point. Did you go in to do the NLP because you wanted to become a coach, or just because you wanted to learn about it?
So I wanted to go in to become a coach.
Hmm.
I also wanted to. It was almost like I wanted to learn how to also coach and do these principles to myself.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
reading about changing your beliefs.
Hmm.
Uh, well, how do you change your beliefs?
Hmm.
You know, and I felt that NLP is the go-to model for these type of strategies. So, and that's what I learned about.
Yeah.
So I decided I'm going to go so I can be the best version of myself, but also so I can help others um, to not be to not go through a similar experience that I have and suffer,
Yeah.
because there is things that help, and I feel that this does.
Yeah. So is that your main why as to why you do what you do today?
Yeah, my why is, it's come from hardship, it's come from adversity.
Hmm.
Um, I've got some other whys, but this why is that I believe everyone's got the resources internally. Everyone's
Yeah.
got the resources they need um, to change things and become who they want to be.
Hmm.
And I think far often, too often, with people generally, we're too hard on ourselves.
Hmm.
And why do we do that?
Yeah.
Why do we treat ourselves and come up with rules and things about how things should be,
Hmm.
instead of just allowing ourselves to enjoy life?
Yeah.
So I suppose that's part of my why. And I suppose another why is to demystify thinking.
Tell me more
because
about that. That's interesting. I like that term.
making something that seems complicated more simple.
Hmm.
So it's helping individuals who I come across to understand their own thought process and being able to observe the thoughts
Hmm.
and not get attached or get stuck in certain patterns of thoughts, because at the end of the day we all have thoughts and they're not all going to be positive.
No, of course not.
So then when we have these negative thoughts and they come up, which they do for everyone, um, from my experience, we latch on to certain thoughts and we don't need to.
Hmm.
But the thoughts then become such a big thing that you start to live your life um, around certain ways that you think. And I think it's important that people have tools and strategies to be able to step away from their own thinking.
Hmm.
So that's sort of like how I would help someone to demystify thinking.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that. And Joe, what's such a valid, simple point, but so important. It's so
Yeah,
important. And I think I have that with every single client I work with.
yeah,
I don't think there's any one client that doesn't have or somewhere come across that on our journey when we go
yeah.
on it. Um, but you still have a day job, right?
I do.
What is that?
So I work in a children's home and I support young people who've got emotional and behavioural difficulties.
I mean, that sounds like a handful right there.
Yeah, it can
That,
be at points. I suppose my journey, my own learning, has also come through this experience of
mhm,
working in these homes and supporting young people to
yeah.
better their lives and giving them the support that they need. Um, I've done it for around 5 years now.
Mm. How
So
old are they? Are they different ages or
yeah, different ages. We have them from ranging from around 11 to 17. So
okay? So
yeah,
jumping into their teens, early teens to late teens. Yeah. Okay. I mean, how have you found the business side of coaching? Like being a new coach is not an easy. We were speaking about before we jumped on. It's not an easy task. Like I've
yeah.
been through all kinds of weird downs, some ups, some amazing highs, some horrible lows. Starting your own business, I suppose, as well. But how have you found it? Like, if you could summarize in a couple of minutes, like, how have you found it?
So what I think happened to me was that I learnt these tools and strategies from NLP,
Mhm.
and I was so pumped up afterwards that I wanted to go out and help everyone.
Yeah.
So I created accounts on social media and put out posts, and I found some people interested, and
Hmm.
but I didn't get the reaction that I thought I was going to get.
Hmm.
So again, I created a thought about how it might be, and it wasn't. Um, so I had a period where I tried really hard to get clients and let them know that I'm there and I can help them with certain things.
Hmm.
And I suppose I found myself getting overwhelmed by it. So I had to take a step back and sort of reassess my plan moving forward of how I can help people
Yeah.
um, in a way that's um, organised and not too overwhelming, really.
How did you do that?
Um, I suppose change my own expectations, and
Hmm.
I think me going into a new field of coaching uh, after doing some, being trained in some good skills, my expectations were too high in thinking that I can go and transition from doing a full-time job into coaching in
Hmm.
such a short time frame. Um, and because I suppose it didn't happen quickly, I had these uh, negative thoughts about, well, is it going to work? Is it for me? This type of thing. So I had to step back and look at it and really think about what is it that I want to do.
Hmm.
And it is coaching it, and it is working with people one to one
Hmm.
to help them with whatever it is. And it's something that also came from a trainer. He made a comment on my training, which just it's sort of something that I remembered at the point when I was thinking about, is it right for me? And he said, you can do whatever you want to do if you give yourself 10 years.
Hmm.
So if you give yourself 10 years and commit to do something, you'll be able to do it. I
Yeah.
thought, well, I was 26 then, and I'm 27 now. So by the time I'm 37, say,
Hmm.
would I be happy being a full-time coach, doing
Hmm.
everything I want to do? And I would. I'd be really happy at that. So why not give it a go?
Mate, I mean, against all odds, right? And I think the best thing that you've got, and this is just for any new coach, because I did it. What you were saying there was so relevant to what I was going through at the start, and even up until now. Sometimes, you do have lulls, but you've got to be in it for the
Yeah,
long haul. If you're in it for the short haul, you're going to fail quickly. It's easy, and I'm sure you will agree with me on this. It's so easy to get wrapped up in the online ads for coaching, building your business, making 10K months, 5K months, 100K months, whatever it might be. There's so many people, helping coaches coach, coaches coach, coaches coach, right? There's so much of that, and it's easy to get wrapped up in that. But it's really, really important that you stay true to who you are and why you're doing it. And that's one thing I've stuck to, is that I don't want to help coaches. I want to help. I can help coaches if it's to do with their like confidence or breaking through self beliefs or limiting beliefs and creating a life they want. Right? That's what I work with clients on, not helping them create money and this
yeah,
passive income and all this, because sometimes I know there's a lot of coaches out there, and I've had numerous conversations with coaches that they're doing it because they love it. They're doing it because they want to help that individual, that one-on-one person, change their life, and not get wrapped up in the rat race or the rat coach race or whatever you want to call it. Because it's easy to do. It's easy to do, especially starting out, because you're thinking there is a lot of money to be made in it. But is that the main reason why you're doing it? Yes,
yeah,
you want to create a life you want. Obviously, money, you need the money to allow you to build your coaching practice. But at the same time, you need to go about it the right way. And I think what you've just said, like, is bang on, bang on.
yeah,
Be in it for the 10 years, like, and see what happens.
definitely.
Um, I mean, so yeah, moving forward, Dan, what's the deal? What's the crack for you? Like, what's the mission?
Um, I suppose the mission for me, I suppose this is something where you could say probably like 20 different things.
Yeah.
Uh, but I suppose um, it sort of fits into my purpose in making a real difference and helping individuals to demystify thinking.
Hmm.
Uh, so anyone I come into contact with,
Yeah.
whether that be through a one-to-one session, a program, or in the future when I look to do a book of my
Hmm.
own, when I look to create my own book around my own um, strategies of how
Hmm.
I've overcome certain things.
Yeah.
Um, but I suppose my main mission is 9 weeks ago I had my baby daughter.
Oh,
So
congratulations. Nice.
yeah, thank you. It's my first baby
Hmm.
daughter, and I think my mission is to be the best dad possible,
Hmm.
because, and I think it fits into everything I do. I once read this quote, which was, "Be the person that you needed when you were younger,"
Hmm.
and
I like that.
I
I like
think,
that.
well, that person, that's my mission, to be that person for my
Yeah.
daughter,
Yeah.
because shit happens in life,
Hmm.
and I think when you're not equipped, when you don't have the things there ready available,
Hmm.
and knowing how to deal with things, it can be a struggle.
Yeah.
So I want my family to be uh, emotionally fit and enjoy life.
Bang. Love that. Mate, I've fair play to you. There's some powerful words to end on.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, appreciate that. I mean, look, Dan, great having you on. I think you've got definitely a story to tell. I'll tell you that.
What's
Definitely
your
got.
mission, Sanjay?
Sorry.
What's your mission?
So my mission was to impact 1 million people,
Right.
and then I thought, why is that my mission? Do I really want to impact 1 million people? Like, is that going to change my life and change that many people? Like, is that? It's definitely possible. Like, I don't think it's not unachievable, but I didn't think it was mine. So I think my mission in life right now, and I'm 34 years old, is basically by the time I'm 40, 44, 10 years, is to be able to say to myself and look at myself in the mirror and say, are you happy, Sanjay?
Yeah.
Have you created a life that brings you happiness? Everything I do, it boils around happiness. Every time you're unhappy, you think about all the worst shit in life. When you're happy, you think about the best things, and that brings out the best in you, which brings out the best in other people. And my future wife and kids, whenever I have them, it'll be to bring out the best in them. I think
Yeah.
that's the sole purpose. Yes, obviously coaching is a massive part of that because I'm creating impact as well. But I don't really think I need to impact 1 million people. I'll leave that to the likes of Tony Robbins. That's not my mission. That's his mission.
Yeah.
So that's my goal.
I like it. Nice, Sergio.
It's just simple, right? Like you said, make something from complicated to simple. Don't need to overcomplicate it. I think there's a lot of people out there who do have big missions in life. They do have big aspirations and big goals. Great. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I have big aspirations to travel the world. That was one of my goals last year, was to travel more. Obviously, what's happened with COVID, and unable to do that at the moment, but I'm still going to do that. But I'm going to do it being happy, and I'm in a good spot, and I don't need to force myself to do it any other way. So yeah, man, that's my mission.
Nice. Like
That's it. Mic drop. Dan, look, mate, appreciate you coming on. Any final words for anyone who's listening?
I think something that I've just thought about now is never settle for less than you can be, because everyone's got potential. No matter what situation people are in, you can always change it.
Yeah.
So we're never stuck.
Yeah.
That's my message.
Yeah. Bang on. Never stuck. You're never stuck. Maybe you just need the right shift in perspective. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Appreciate that. Well, look, Dan, thanks for coming on. If you're listening and you've got this far, thank you so much. I massively appreciate it. You can make sure you share this with anyone who you see might see value in it. I don't want you to share it with people who might just listen to it for the sake of listening to it. But if you think, hearing Dan's story and having this conversation with Dan and hearing what he's been through and how he's overcome it and doing what he's doing now, and along with his mission, if you can see someone that might take value in that or might be relatable to that, then by all means, please do share this with them. And yeah, reach out to Dan or myself if you've got any questions. I'll put Dan's links everywhere around this post or around the podcast. And yeah, thanks very much, mate. I appreciate you coming on.
Cheers.
Have a great day.
You too.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Ignite Your Mind podcast. This is a safe place for real talk on discovering powerful stories, talking about mental health, real business journeys, and hearing inspiring stories. Please do subscribe if you are listening to this on Spotify, YouTube, or Apple Podcasts, and leave me a comment. And more importantly, share this with anyone who you think may take value from it. I look forward to seeing you next week.